women in music, is something that needs to be celebrated, especially when these women come through the kind of adversities mvula has. The last 2 years have been tough for the 30-year-old, who has had to cope with the end of her marriage and being unceremoniously dropped from her label. But she's remained unshakable, earning herself an Ivor Novello Award for album The Dreaming Room despite having to go it alone. My divorce was final in January 2017, then the label wrote their email in January, and Quayne wrote his email in January, so I was just alone with my cat, she exclusively told Metro.co.uk at the 2017 Ivor Novello Awards of the moment she was dropped via email. I was like, shall we start again? So, to be here now is a refreshing boost and encouragement. It's harder when you've got a cloud over your head, or that voice that said you should have got your PGCE. Thank God she didn't listen to that voice. She's a force to be reckoned with, and proof that black women in music shouldn't be underestimated by any stretch of the imagination. While she's had to face adversity, not just with the aforementioned hardships, but also with the music industry itself, and finding a place for her niche sound, she's come back fighting, and one way was to accept that it was never going to work with her label, who dropped her via a 7-line forwarded email. Yes, the label dropped me, she said matter-of-factly, acknowledging the partnership was a mistake. But of course they were going to struggle, they have me, it wasn't the greatest match made. She was by no means ever a pop star, despite people trying to mold her into one. I've discovered it way too late that I don't need a label, she added, having realized that doing her own thing was exactly what she needed to do. When I signed, I was the equivalent age of 5 in the industry. It was great, it was so exciting for me. But it became obvious quite quickly that I existed in my bubble, and everyone tried really hard to figure out how to make this digestible, which wasn't necessary as British people don't need spoon feeding, but unfortunately when that middleman gets in the way, so I've realized it now. In fact, she encourages young artists to follow in her footsteps and go it alone and shake off the hindrance labels can sometimes bring. She told us there's a big change happening in the music industry. It's great. I've seen loads of young artists inspired because there's such a warped understanding. When you say record label, there's such an overemphasis on what that role is. We're not living in the 1980s anymore. We really have moved on, and it's moving at quite a pace, so it's wicked to be able to stand, particularly for young people, and say, hey, these things are possible. The thing is, the music industry is massively changing, and having been around for a few years, her debut album Sing to the Moon dropped in 2013, she's finding herself having to react. Even from the time I put out my first album to now, it's an entirely different market, she said. I feel a bit old, I've got to get with the picture, but it's great, it keeps everyone on their toes. You've got to stay relevant and connect with what's happening. Her overall message, be yourself to succeed, echoed by Skepta. I remember the person that said to me, you're not a singer. This was someone I respected, she revealed. And I understood at the time why he said that, but I internalized that. So I just thought I'd go a different route. But that's the beautiful thing about having a genuine love for something or a passion, you keep going. Skepta said it earlier, when something is true there's nothing you can do about it. Just speak about it universally. I wanted to be Beyonce, but I'm not Beyonce, but I have my thing. In the same way every human being has a story. And I really believe we are all geniuses at something. So I'm just happy. More in Focus rapper Yunjin is more than his cameo in Straight Outta Love Island. More in Focus Skepta is proof that staying true to yourself is what makes great music.